test is great. I mean, if you are now starting out a new relationship and you were able to know what your personality type is, you can match yourself up with someone that has your exact personality type, and of course you guys would be more compatible and would be able to sustain a long-term relationship.
Hello, my name is Janine Etienne, and today I'm joined by Dr. John Jacob, and we're going to be discussing his book, The XY Theory, and also discussing how this can be used to impact your relationships now or in the future. Okay. So Dr. Jacob, right? A lot of times in relationships, people tend to be fixated on personality, either themselves or their partners, right? So my question for you is, can a personality test really predict whether or not a relationship will end even before it will begin?
It absolutely can. And I believe in a city like New York, for instance, where we have 500,000 more single women than men, it's absolutely critical. So what I had to do was come up with a test that would allow you to determine how someone would act inside of the relationship. We will get to this, I guess, later in the interview. But basically we have two personality types. We have a social personality, which is what we found, and there's also a relationship or relational personality. So what you get when you meet someone for the first time is their social personality, is the personality that you take to work with you. You want to impress your friends, you want to impress your boss, you want to show a side of you that you would rather them see. The happy Janine, the positive Janine, she's a hard worker, she's punctual, she loves everyone. So when you meet someone, let's say you met someone at work, this is what they see. This is what they fall in love with. But that's the social personality doing what social personalities do, which is, let me make Janine look the best she could possibly look. And then what actually happens is, once you get into the relationship with this individual who was attracted to the social personality withdraws and leaves the relationship or relational personality. And sometimes they're complete opposites. And that creates a lot of problems.
Okay.
So back to the question about the test, I had to create a test that would not measure what most tests measure, which is the social personality. You go online, you try to date online, the questions they ask you are all about social personality. What you need is questions that will ask you about relationship personality, but those are difficult to tap because you haven't seen it yet. It's what the person will do when they feel comfortable, when they no longer feel that they need to bring the roses, when they no longer feel that they need to take you to the nice restaurants.
Or perform, right? Where there's no longer a need to perform,
or
put on a stage.
They're safe, they're secure in the relationship, you guys are now fully committed, and then the social personality withdraws and leaves the relational personality. And that usually creates a problem.
So what I'm hearing is that the relational personality is more of the authentic self, right? So when I think of the social person, I'm thinking of you putting your best foot forward. As you mentioned, you talked a little bit about it being as if you're going to a job interview, right? So when we're dating, we are interviewing for a lifelong position, which is hopefully establishing a life partner or a marriage of the sorts, right? So you're putting out your best foot forward, which is your social self, the person you take to the interview. However, the relational person then becomes your authentic self, right? The person you are when there's no one to impress, when it's just purely you at your best.
That's right.
Okay.
And to compound the problem, the social personality usually comes with a handful of hormones that cause all kinds of problems for you. His job, the social personality's job, is to blind you, for instance, to the faults of the person that you're interested in. So we actually know now that there are hormones that are produced in that early stage, what we call the honeymoon phase, that blind you to all those things that you will eventually see when those hormones are no longer produced. We know now that it takes your body somewhere between 3 months into the dating relationship, between 3 months to 2 years, for those hormones to no longer have the same effect. Your body now has developed a tolerance for those hormones. So imagine the hormone that blinded you suddenly goes away, and now the very things that you thought were cute before now become extremely annoying.
So your fragrance now becomes an odor.
Yes,
right?
If you're not allergic to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a real serious problem. So also there are hormones that would cause you to think that this person is the love of your life. Some scientists have actually identified one particular hormone, serotonin, and they have found that it's the same hormone that is implicated in obsessive compulsive disorder. So if you know what an obsessive person is like, you understand that when you're not falling in love and you have all these butterflies and you can't sleep at night and you want to hear the person's voice and you want to talk until 3 in the morning and you're not hungry and you want to miss work and you're very obsessive about this new person, all of that is hormonally controlled. And all of that disappears sooner rather than later, and you're left with the real John or the real Peter or the real Tom. And sometimes you have a total stranger.
So the test definitely measures compatibility, right? So it measures the two different personality types, right? So you've established them as X and Y, right?
Yeah, well, to simplify it.
Okay.
You have an X-type personality if you have a high need for something, and you have a Y-type personality if you have a low need for that thing.
Okay. So
that's where the X and Y comes in. But as we go on, you'll realize that we have combinations. So you're actually going to end up with 4 personality types. You're going to be an XX, a YY, an XY, or YX.
Okay. And how does the test, I guess, measure in terms of happiness, right? So in terms of longevity or whether or not the relationship will end, you talked a little bit about whether it will end, but what about happiness in terms of the relationship? Is the test able to measure that?
Okay, that's a good question. I know several couples that have been together for 30 years. And I try to tell people the test is great. I mean, if you are now starting out a new relationship and you were able to know what your personality type is, you could match yourself up with someone that has your exact personality type, and of course you guys would be more compatible and would be able to sustain a long-term relationship. And I always tell people, I am not psychic. The test is not a test for psychics. It simply tells you whether or not you will have an easy time in the relationship, whether or not you guys are going to be compatible enough to meet each other's needs, or whether this is going to be conflict after conflict after conflict. Because, I couldn't predict whether or not you guys are actually going to give up and throw in the towel and walk away and say, hey, this is too much. So I've known some people together for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and can actually tell you I did not enjoy one single year of that relationship. And that's what the test can predict.
Okay. And why is the XY theory called the dangerous test?
The test is dangerous for anyone who tries to go into a relationship without the best intentions. Because the test is designed to show what someone would be like inside of the relationship.
Okay. All right.